Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're looking at an absolute ultimate industry disruptor. I'm talking about the legendary Elsa Klensch. Now, I want you to picture the world of high fashion, but way before the 1980s. Before it was this globally accessible instant spectacle we're all used to today. Back then, it was, quite literally, the ultimate VIP club. If you didn't have the password, well, the bouncer just pointed at you and said, "Not tonight." It was this completely closed-off, elite ecosystem of untouchable salons. But today, we're going to explore how one woman took a massive pair of metaphorical cable cutters to that velvet rope. Elsa didn't just peek inside. No, she literally ripped the doors right off their hinges and broadcast the deepest secrets of this exclusive world straight into living rooms across the globe. It was a massive shock to the system, and honestly, her story of disrupting an entire industry is just absolutely fascinating.
So it's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How on earth does a wartime reporter break into the world's most exclusive VIP club? Because, let's be real, you couldn't just stroll right into these elite circles. And Elsa? She definitely didn't come from some fluffy fashion insider background. She was a serious, hard news journalist. I mean, she actually built her reporting chops navigating complex geopolitics in wartime Saigon, which is just an incredibly intense environment, and, fun fact, incidentally where she met her husband. But when she eventually transitioned into the fashion space, working for places like Women's Wear Daily and Vogue, she brought that frontline, no-nonsense grit directly to the runway. It was a complete clash of cultures. And to truly understand just how jarring her arrival was, we really need to look at exactly what she was up against.
To really grasp how radical she was, we've got to look at the stark contrast here. Before the 1980s, the fashion world operated basically like a secret society. Now, we all know the pre-internet era was painfully slow, right? But the fashion world, that was on another level entirely. Communication only happened through these heavily, meticulously curated monthly magazines. It was slow, it was completely insulated, and it was controlled by just a tiny, select few. But Elsa's vision, it was the exact opposite. She wanted to drag this notoriously closed-off world out of the shadows and throw it onto live mass-market television. Talk about the ultimate fish-out-of-water scenario. The whole idea of taking something so agonizingly slow and elite and just projecting it live into everyday living rooms, I mean, at the time, that was a completely radical proposition.
And, her origin story is just as chaotic as it is brilliant. So she builds this hard news grit in Saigon before 1978. But the real turning point hits in '78 during a massive newspaper strike in New York. Print editors are completely scrambling, just desperately looking for local television spots to get their stories out. And amidst all this chaos, Elsa pulls off an absolute miracle. She actually manages to get the legendary designer Yves Saint Laurent on camera. This is huge, by the way, because YSL was notoriously terrified of filming, but her sheer journalistic persistence made it happen anyway. And right here is where history pivots. Media mogul Ted Turner catches this very broadcast. He sees her potential immediately, and boom, just like that, Style with Elsa Klensch anchors CNN's inaugural week in 1980. She officially brings the runway straight to cable news.
Now, what's really interesting here is what happened when she finally got these designers on camera. She deployed this deeply unusual interview style. Seriously, if you go look at archival footage of Elsa, you'll notice this habit that honestly sounds a bit unnerving when you first hear about it. While a high-profile designer was answering her question on camera, Elsa would just stand there and silently mouth their exact words back to them in real time, just perfectly mirroring their lips while they spoke. Naturally, you have to ask yourself, was this just an eccentric quirk of a seasoned journalist, or was it a highly calculated tactic?
Well, you can probably imagine the reaction. Designer John Bartlett actually recalled that her silent mirroring, and I quote, initially petrified him. And honestly, you can completely understand why. Put yourself in his shoes. You're a top designer, you're probably already nervous about being on this brand new medium called global television, and the interviewer is just silently mouthing your every word right back at you. At first glance, it just looks like a bizarre, terrifying eccentricity designed to completely throw you off your game. But as we're about to see, Elsa never did anything by accident.
The reality behind this little quirk? It was pure editorial genius. She wasn't just blindly nodding along. She was actually executing something called real-time voiceover pacing. So by silently mirroring their speech patterns as they spoke, she was essentially editing the segment in her head right there on the fly. She was mentally pacing out her future voiceovers, basically doing real-time translation in her brain to ensure that when this footage finally hit the cutting room floor, the audio edits would be absolutely flawless. She literally sacrificed normal social conventions to guarantee absolute, crystal-clear clarity for her viewing audience. And
That right there, that is the mark of a true broadcast pioneer. So, the crucial point is that this unprecedented level of clarity and access absolutely terrified the old guard. I mean, the establishment fully panicked. Suddenly, you have this rogue journalist broadcasting their tightly guarded secrets directly to the masses. The Chambre syndicale, which is the incredibly powerful governing body that controls French fashion, they reacted with total panic. They actually went ahead and banned Elsa from entering their shows. Think about that. The luxury brands were fighting against the very exposure that would ultimately make them globally famous. Why? Well, because they were absolutely convinced that putting raw runway footage on global television would cause mass market piracy. They were terrified that copycats would steal their silhouettes and designs way before the real clothes ever had a chance to hit the boutique floors.
But listen, you don't survive wartime journalism just to be defeated by a Parisian fashion ban. Since they banned her from the inside, she executed this totally ingenious guerrilla workaround. She literally stationed her camera crews right outside the venues, and they would ambush the powerful department store buyers the very second they stepped out of the building. She got these buyers to describe the overarching trends and even sketch the new silhouettes right there on camera, broadcasting it all on international TV. So instead of the designers controlling their own pristine, perfect narrative, the buyers were suddenly out there doing it for them. This brilliant end run forced the syndicates to capitulate almost immediately. They quickly realized they were completely losing control of the story.
And they didn't just lose control of the story to a few people. They lost it to a staggeringly large audience. 200 million. That is the number of viewers Elsa Klensch eventually reached. Once those buyers started describing the clothes to millions of people, it created this absolute avalanche of immediate consumer demand. The luxury houses very quickly realized, we cannot afford to let someone else control our narrative to an audience of 200 million people spread across 142 countries. Her workaround completely broke the ban. She won. And in the process, she fundamentally re-engineered the entire fashion ecosystem.
But here is where Elsa's legacy gets even richer, because she didn't just use this massive, unprecedented reach to simply promote the established, safe European houses. No. She used her democratized platform to validate radical, revolutionary designers who might never, ever have reached Middle America otherwise. She gave serious analytical airtime to avant-garde creators. For instance, she exposed mainstream viewers to Rei Kawakubo's wild, deconstructed, asymmetrical shapes. And she aggressively championed black designers too, like Stephen Burrows, bringing his vibrant color blocking and those signature lettuce edge hems right into everyday living rooms. She didn't just report on fashion, she actively broadened the entire world's aesthetic vocabulary.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why she commanded so much respect. It was her rigorous, analytical approach. By the time she left CNN in 2001, she had created an archetype so iconic that she was famously parodied in Robert Altman's film Ready to Wear. But unlike the clueless, exaggerated reporter you see in that film, the real Elsa was deeply, deeply revered by the industry. She wasn't some fluff reporter. She was respected for her vast intellect and a profoundly deep understanding of garment construction. I mean, she analyzed a dress with the exact same rigor a political correspondent uses to analyze a major international treaty.
So the next time you're sitting on your couch watching a Runway live stream on your smartphone in gorgeous high definition, I want you to remember the pioneer who first forced the camera behind that velvet rope. But it does leave us with something pretty provocative to consider. If luxury brands once viewed television as a fatal threat to their exclusivity, how might today's instant, hyper-accessible streaming culture be affecting the industry? Does the velvet rope even exist anymore, or do we just digitize it? Are things truly more accessible now, or have we just built new, invisible barriers? It's definitely something to chew on as you scroll through your feeds today. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next deep dive.